Don't forget to stick around till the end of the video for a special giveaway.
Well, as 2023 comes to an end and everyone else is doing their top 10 for the year, I thought I'd do a bit of self-indulgent and go through my top 10 figures for this year, although with a twist. Similar to how Few does his top 10s, I'm going to be taking a look at the top 10 figures that I've personally picked up this year. Not so much the top 10 figures that have been released, because unfortunately I've not been able to get some of those top claimed figures, such as the Commander class Optimus Prime or the Commander Ultra Magnus, which are magnificent figures from what I have both seen and heard. So without further ado, let's get into our top 10.
Number 10.
So starting off with number 10 is not so much a singular figure, but more so a group of figures. Now, I was pretty late to the party when it came down to the Masterpiece raiding, and I didn't quite start collecting it until start of this year, February, March, but I was pleasantly surprised. Now, I know people say, oh, but it's not Masterpiece, it's Chug. Me personally, I like Masterpiece, however, I am much more a Generations Chug collector. I prefer the mainline over Masterpiece, not only because of the diversity of characters, but also it's a cheaper price point. Yes, you could argue less articulation, less accessories, less paint, but me personally, I'm not after something that's shelf presence like the Seacons. They look great as a team on a shelf, but when you really want a full cast, like say the first season of the Decepticons, or maybe the third season of Autobots, when it comes down to the Masterpiece stuff, you've got to break them up. For me, the Chug stuff, you can have them all on one shelf and they look brilliant together. So personally, I would definitely say that this set of figures is more aimed for myself and those sort of collectors. And I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised when I got my first pieces. I mean, they are honestly really, really good. Now, I'm very much someone that enjoys a decent robot mode, a decent transformation, and a decent alt mode. These guys are in scale with HO gauge trains, which I have had the pleasure of seeing in person, and they are perfectly in scale. So I can hide these amongst a collection of trains if I so wanted to, which I do quite like.
Number 9.
Number 9 for me is definitely a pickup that I have wanted for quite some time. It's more so the fact of it's the character than the actual figure itself. See, I've had quite a deep connection with this character. I wouldn't say that it is my all-time favourite character, but I certainly hold a deep connection with Ironhide. See, my first Transformer was the Energon Ironhide figure. So I fell in love with the G1 Ironhide from watching the VHS tapes from the cartoon. And having the opportunity to go to TF Nation this year and pick this guy up from Toy Fu, which thank you guys, was an absolute joy, especially since it was a figure that stood out to me as a kid. It was just one of those really obscure robot modes that just didn't fit with the rest of them, and I just fell in love with how peculiar it was. Of course, this is the Encore re-release, but I don't care. It's still gorgeous. I love it to bits.
Number 8.
Number 8 is a bit more modern. Like I said, Legacy is definitely pulling from different parts of the universe. I love that, like I have said in many of my videos talking about Legacy and talking about where we are going with Generations. I love the fact that they're pulling from all these different universes. One of those universes is animated. And I've got to say, the Legacy Evolution animated Prowl, what a figure. It is certainly a great figure, and I absolutely love how much articulation is in this little guy. He looks the part. Yes, he's a bit more beefy than what the original cartoon design would be, or Derek J. Wyatt's art style, but it certainly fits for the character. I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous. it has its little own motifs that work for it, which I do quite like. And honestly, I can't wait to see what else they do. I'd certainly love to see an animated Megatron at some point, especially a Lugnut. I definitely want to see a Lugnut.
Number 7.
Number 7, again, is definitely from this year, except for me, I managed to pick up only one of this team last year and had to pay the price on another one, but I feel like I'm going to pay the price for the last member when it comes down to trying to complete the set. I'm of course talking about the Studio Series Dinobots, which, if you weren't aware, Studio Series Dinobots get more expensive the further back you try and go. That Grimlock, oh, that price tag, it is hefty now. Of course talking about the Dinobot Snarl, and I've got to say, yes, there's a few little QC issues here and there with the figure, such as the Autobot logo on his head. Honestly, it makes up for it. It really does. It looks gorgeous in its Dinobot mode. It looks amazing in Robot mode. He looks menacing. He looks powerful. It's what you want from a Dinobot set. It stomps over that Power of the Primes variant, that deluxe class variant of Snarl. And I've got to say, it is absolutely incredible. I can't wait to get a swoop next year when they eventually release it. And I can't wait until we get a Grimlock re-release, or I can get a hold of that Studio Series Grimlock figure. Just everything about it is what you could want from a Dinobot.
Number 6.
As we make our way to number 6, I've got to talk about yet another modern adaptation of a classic character that I absolutely adore. If you couldn't tell, I have such a soft spot for Armada and the Unicron trilogy as a whole, because it's what I grew up with. As soon as they'd announced that they were going to be doing these guys, I honestly could not contain my excitement, and I had to pick this guy up straight away. Talking about Hotshot, now I've already done a video about this guy, and I still think that the original figure is so much better of a toy, but this modern version, the legacy version of Hot Rod, it's perfect as a standalone piece for your shelf. I mean, I'm still hoping that Fans Hobby will do a rendition of it to go with our Naval Commander and the rest of our fleet, as it goes for a modern adaptation of a somewhat beloved / hated character. It's honestly such a great toy. And I honestly want to see a Cyclonus, Demolisher, Red Alert. I just want the whole Season 1 cast, because it's something that I absolutely adore, and I can't wait to see them do more of it.
Number 5.
As we make our way to number 5, I've got to talk about a figure that was heavily irritating for me to try and find. This figure has been on my list for probably the longest time. It's got to be one of the figures that has done the most damage to my collection in terms of having to fill a space. For me, this is the last character that I needed for the on-screen characters for this line. It's Armada Wheeljack, and I've got to say, this guy is really cool. Yes, limited articulation as per the norm for this generation, the Aaron Archer era, for Unicron trilogy, but honestly, that doesn't matter. The design on this guy is so cool. You've got the scratch going through the Autobot logo with a little Decepticon insignia on his belly. He turns into a Lamborghini. Oh, it is so cool. I mean, his main weapons, his missile pods, or his missiles, become his swords. I don't know where they've gone at the minute, but I'm sure they're somewhere in a bag. But it's just such a cool figure. It's such a cool design. It is so cool, and I'm glad to finally have it and to complete that spot in my collection for Armada.
I can only count to 4.
As much as I love Armada, in recent years I've found that I do quite like the designs of the Bayverse figures. Not so much the Studio Series stuff. I mean, I've got the complete set of the 07 figures from Studio Series, but for me, they don't quite top the Masterpiece, and I've got to say, the Masterpiece Megatron that they did for the Bayverse, oh, this guy is so nice. I mean, you've got that sort of copper, the red, the silver. It works for this guy. He honestly looks so good. Yeah, he's got his issues, like with his feet being full die cast for his toes, which do weigh down the figure a fair bit. Unfortunately, his legs do not snap in together quite as well as I'd hope, nor does the collarbones tab in quite well to his chest. Small little issues, small QC issues, like the back panel as well that connects to the wings. It looks incredible. The size is incredible on this guy, and I have to say, I can't wait to get a hold of the Bone Crusher, and I can't wait until they do a brawl so that we have that full 07 cast, because that is definitely one thing that is on my list.
Honourable mentions.
Now, before I get into my top 3, we've got to talk about a few honourable mentions. Now, 2 of these turned up today from a good friend, that being Mark Everest from Forever Retro, that being Beast Wars Polar Claw and the Transmetal Megatron, which I'm surprised that this guy is still held together, because of course he's made of that horrible GPS, but he's actually in really good condition, and I do not intend to do much with this guy. He goes on the shelf, I do a video of him, and then that's it. After that he gets put down. But the Polar Claw, I was actually so pleasantly surprised with. He's actually a really good figure. I mean, he needs a clean up. He's obviously been on the shelf for a fair bit, but he's such a cool little figure. The other things that I have to mention is my gift from helping out at TF Nation for Less Vintage. That being this lovely KO G1 Raiding. Yeah, I know it's a KO, but how often do you see a G1 Raiding, let alone the KO version? I gotta say, the KO version's pretty funny, with a few different colour swaps and a few odd bits. I mean, his arm did break, so that's just glued on, but as the set goes and as the silhouette goes, he's perfect for what he is and what he does. The last 2 honourable mentions go to Mini Pugnus. Honestly, I had to pick this guy up. After meeting Gav in person and forming a good friendship with him, I had to get one. I mean, I can understand why he loves Repugnus. He's just a little bug-eyed little weirdo. He's pretty adorable like this, so I can understand why he loves him. The last thing that I have to give an honourable mention to, again, comes from Forever Retro, and I've talked about this before with my Toy Fair video, that being my Generations Metroplex. That thing is incredible. It's been on my list for quite a while, and I was so glad to get the chance to finally own one. I did end up seeing a fair few at TF Nation, but I'm glad that I got a pristine boxed one from those guys. It honestly was a treat to finally have one with unused contents, so I could put all the stickers on myself.
Number 3, Très Toi.
Now we get down to our top 3. And the 3rd position goes to another figure that has been on my list for a fair while. This being a figure from the early 2000s. I've got him off camera just messing with him because I just love messing with this guy. He's got such nice ratchet joints, and he's just so cool. Of course, talking about the Cybertron Megatron. Yeah, I'm so glad to have this guy. It is such a cool figure. The silhouette looks so good. I will say, tolerance-wise, his knees aren't too good. The swivels aren't too good, purely because of how thick and weighty the plastic is on this guy. But honestly, to have a figure like this is, it's a dream come true to have a figure from your childhood. It's just so cool.
Number 2, Giggity Goo.
And number 2 and number 1 spot was quite a hard decision for me. Primarily because when I got this figure, I honestly absolutely adored it. I mean, the size, the scale, the articulation, everything about it just, it was perfect. When we had our most recent modern variation of this figure, I really enjoyed it. So to get this variant of it, I honestly had to get it because I love the design for this guy. That being the Masterpiece Blackout. This guy is so cool. I honestly love everything about this guy. The detailing, the transformation is nice and complex yet simple, and the helicopter mode, oh my god, that thing's huge. It screams masterpiece and it screams this character. Of course, Blackout's quite huge in the movie, and to have a figure that represents that, that's what I want from a masterpiece figure, and that's why he was almost number one. But second place isn't all bad for this guy.
Number 1!
My number one pick, which I feel like I'm going to get some crap for this, is G1 Deathsaurus. Those of you that saw this come in, I know. I did a whole video on this guy and how disappointed I was with the fact that the HasLab Deathsaurus was not going to come out in Europe for another couple of months. But I'm so glad that I got this figure instead. I mean, the G1 figure is just so cool. This guy is so cool. I honestly love it to bits. It is one of those just personal grail figures. It's just such a great figure, and I love it to bits. So that's been my top 10 figures of this year. Now, I did say at the start of this video that I would be doing a competition, and I do have a few bits to give away. These will all be in one big giveaway for this year. These figures are just spare figures that I had lying around, and since it's Christmas, I want to give back to you guys. So I have two of the pieces of the Rail Racer set for the Bullet Train team. I do have the accessories. I will dig them out for whoever wins. But yeah, they are lovely. There is a bit of sun damage on these guys. That is the only thing wrong with them. Other than that, all the joints, all of that is perfectly fine. The other two figures, which were given to me by a friend, that I already have these figures and I didn't know what else to do with these guys, but give them away to you guys. So we have a Earthrise Starscream, which does have all of its accessories, and a Legacy Knockout, which is missing his accessories. But if you do want to win these four figures, all you need to do is make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, like this video, and drop a comment in the comment section below saying what your favourite figure of this year is. And we'll say the 10th of January for the closing date on this competition, or this giveaway, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I just want to say thank you to you guys for all of your support so far in my journey on YouTube. Like I said, that's my top 10 of this year, more so my personal pickups rather than figures that have been released this year. I mean, there is a fair few figures that have been released within the past year within that top 10. So if you did like this video, then don't forget to smash that subscribe button and have a happy holiday. I will see you guys after the holidays.